The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right, let's take a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index currently at $46,633. Bitcoin charging up about 4.5%. And the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at 32.39. ETH also advancing 4.3% over the past 24 hours. And the new DFX, CoinDesk's DeFi index, is up $712. It is also advancing 5.3% over the day. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Greg King, founder and CEO of crypto investment firm Osprey Funds. Hi there, Greg. So, as I mentioned before, profit taking happened yesterday. We saw the crypto markets go down. Now they're back up with over $46,000. What's your outlook on the crypto markets?
We remain bullish. You know, we got trapped in a sideways channel there for a little while from 30 to 40,000. And I think crypto investors are not used to that. It's either going up or it's going down. But we were consolidating. And I think with the breakout past 40,000 signals some positive upside here going into year end. As far as an end target, you know, that's hard to say. We could get into six figures. I know people were calling for that earlier in the year, and then that sort of died down. We don't put out price targets, but we're definitely long-term bullish.
So Greg, as I said earlier in the broadcast, we're seeing volumes are about a third of where they were before China had this crackdown back in May, and yet we've had these large price moves. What do you think is happening here? Is it just a few big players going in and maybe perhaps moving the price around and creating a bit of FOMO? Do you see actual institutional interest or actual retail interest, or is this sort of, I don't want to say manipulated so much as it is just a few players going into a very light market and pushing prices around?
Well, I think you've seen an improvement in you know, the futures contango situation, which indicates that institutions are more bullish than they were. You also have, I think it was a report by Into the Block that came out that said that a lot of the purchasing recently was from people who are already long and already profitable. So I think some of the long-term holders were sort of buying the dip. I see this period as a very much a churning period. You have these cross currents, right? You have the regulators coming out. Gary Gensler said a number of things that could be construed as negative towards crypto overall, but perhaps positive towards Bitcoin as sort of the OG investment whose status as a non-security is pretty solidified. So I do think there's a bit of churn still happening as we move, and not a ton of volume, as you said, but I think that'll sift out over the next couple months, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a really positive move in the fall.
Greg, can we just talk a little bit about what happened over the past week or so? Because we are kind of in this real summer doldrums in the market. And then, you know, Bitcoin has basically been up, I think, around 8% over the past week in the midst of regulatory news that looks pretty negative on the surface. So just what is driving that in your opinion? Yeah,
no, it's a great question. You know, I don't obviously have the exact answer, but I do feel like there's a move towards sort of back towards Bitcoin right now because there's been a lot of rhetoric around the space in general, and certainly around anything that's not Bitcoin or Ethereum. And the issue at hand is whether or not these are securities, whether or not they can be traded on the platforms that they're being traded on currently, whether or not, you know, investors or intermediaries have certain obligations that you know, aren't being met because these aren't regulated the way a broker-dealer would be, et cetera. So in my view, there's a little bit of kind of divergence there, but you haven't seen a huge uptick in Bitcoin's dominance, really. And that's probably been tempered because Ethereum is also very hot, and that's on the back of DeFi and NFT trends, which remain strong. So there is that kind of tension, and like I say, I wouldn't be surprised to see more of a divergence as we go into the end of the year.
So Greg, ETFs, that's something that you believe, at least prior to a couple of months ago, would happen sometime this year. Given all the regulatory interest now and focus in Congress and elsewhere, Do you think that's still happening by December 31st, or are you pushing out your projection to say 2022, 2023?
Yeah, I think I've never really been one to say that it was happening this year. I think what I might have said earlier in the year was a 50-50 shot this year and more like 80-20 next year. That was a while back. I think I said that towards the beginning of the year. You know, I don't think there's any chance really this year. So 2022, you could see something. We looked at Gensler's comments, as I'm sure a lot of our competitors did and people in the space, and there does seem to be a path forward there. He's sort of telegraphing that he might be open to essentially the more highly regulated approaches you can take to launch a ETF. The caveat there is that probably includes futures instead of physical Bitcoin, and so that would be a slightly different product and come with certain limitations, et cetera. But we could see something next year.